Okay, sorry for this one being a bit late, but I had the flu. Hello and welcome to day 11 of that trip to Japan that we did. Today we are strapping on our helmets for a pedal along the Shimanami Kaido cycle route. The Shimanami Kaido is a 70-kilometer cycle route crossing the Seto Inland Sea from Onomichi on the mainland to Imabari on the southern island of Shikoku, crossing over 6 islands and 6 suspension bridges. I first heard about it from a video by Mr. Broad on the Abroad in Japan YouTube channel, who described it as the most beautiful place in Japan. There are bicycle rentals at both ends of the route and on some of the islands. Ideally, we would have hired bikes at one end and dropped them off at the other, or possibly on one of the islands. This would have been easy enough to organise with regular bikes, but I'm not sure I could manage to cycle that far in one day, and I wanted to have a nice time. So we decided to hire electric bikes instead. Unfortunately, I had a really difficult time trying to book electric bikes that we could pick up in one place and drop off somewhere else. So we decided to just cycle as much of the route as we wanted to and return the bikes to where we hired them. I was also a bit worried about whether we could make it all the way across before the bike rental closed, but we'll see how that worked out. So we start by catching the train from Mihara to Onomichi port, where we hire our bikes. I said earlier that the route has 6 islands and 6 bridges. The more astute of you may have clocked that you would need 7 bridges to fully cross the sea. This is because the bridge connecting Onomichi to the first island of Mukashima isn't open to cyclists, so instead we have to catch the ferry across. The route itself is mostly along normal roads, often sharing with cars but sometimes with a segregated track. I must admit I was a bit surprised by this. For some reason I thought there would be more isolated cycle paths, probably from seeing videos of the cycle paths leading up to the bridges. Going through the towns there were often quite a few cars around and sometimes lorries, and although they were all very respectful and gave us lots of space, some in our group weren't very confident cyclists, so sometimes it could be a bit stressful. I was impressed though by how patient all the drivers were, and outside of the towns the roads were generally quite quiet. As Mr. Broad said, the views are amazing. The Seto Inland Sea is very, very pretty and much of the route runs along the coast. I had a little difficulty with the camera. I had it attached to my bag strap while we were cycling and couldn't really see the screen to make sure I was getting anything usable. At least 3 times I ended up zooming the camera in when I wanted to tilt it up, totally messing up the footage until we had a break and I got to check and fix it. You would have thought I would have learned after at least the second time. I spent most of the trip at the back of the group to make sure Maya was okay because she's not a very confident cyclist, which means that she is in almost every shot. I was thinking of titling this one, Maya's Big Day Out. We cycle pretty constantly, pausing only at a couple of observation points until after we cross the second bridge and stop at Dolce Ice Cream for a sweet treat. Our plan then was to head on to the town of Setoda to get some proper food. Now, on Google Maps you can see there are lots of restaurants and cafes along the routes and in the towns. When we got to Setoda though, none of them were very obvious to us. The restaurants are pretty small and their signage is usually only in Japanese, and the town itself was just very quiet. So we didn't really recognise that the restaurants were even restaurants. This is where we made our first mistake, I think. After passing through Setoda without anything catching our eye, we decided to just keep cycling with no clear plan. In hindsight, we probably should have returned to Setoda to explore a bit more and find something to eat, and then started to head back. Instead though, we end up cycling all the way to the third bridge, where we make our second mistake. Time had absolutely flown by, and we were pretty much halfway through our rental period. We really should have started heading back straight away, but it felt like a shame not to cross the bridge since we'd got to it, especially since the map showed there was an observation deck on the other side. So we crossed the bridge, reaching what looks like on the map to be about the halfway point of the whole route. We still hadn't eaten, so we stopped at a 7-Eleven to grab a quick bite before pushing on. The trip back ended up being a bit more of a slog than it needed to be. Obviously our energy levels were dropping a bit as we'd been cycling all day, and now we had the added time pressure of getting back before the bike rental closed. Our third mistake came right at the end. The whole day we had been following a blue line that marked the cycle route. What we didn't know is that there are 2 ports on the first island that the blue line goes to. We wanted to go to the first one, which meant taking a turn off the main road, which we missed. Well, I say we. By this point, we'd spread out quite a bit, and Chloe and Liam were either ahead or behind us. I can't remember, but they were far enough away that we couldn't see them. They took the correct turn, but the rest of us didn't. The ferry at the port that we went to would still have taken us to Onomichi, but would have dropped us off further up the coast from the bike rental, meaning we would have had to have cycled on the mainland, where the roads looked quite a lot busier. So instead, we decided to go back to the first port, but in the meantime we miss a ferry, although Liam and Chloe managed to catch it. Still though, it was around 6 PM at this point, and the bike rental closed at 7 PM, so we had plenty of time. Or so I thought. The attendant at the bike rental had told us that the port closed at 7, which I had taken to mean that the rental closed at 7 as well, but no, they closed at 6, which apparently he did also tell us. I just misunderstood. I don't know why he mentioned when the port closed at all, to be honest. Liam and Chloe, having caught the earlier ferry, managed to get their bikes back in time, but the rest of us ended up being 20-ish minutes late. The attendant seemed quite annoyed, and it was pretty embarrassing. We would have made it in time if we hadn't gone to the wrong port, or crossed the 3rd bridge, or stopped at Seto and turned around earlier. So in the end, we did cycle about the distance of the full route. We just did the first half twice. I don't think we would have got that far without electric bikes, so I was very glad we used them. Even with them, my legs still ached a bit the next day. While I did enjoy it overall, I do regret not turning back a bit sooner. Anyway, after apologising profusely to the rental attendants, we head back to Mihara and end up eating at a really nice traditional restaurant where we had to take our shoes off at the entrance, and the chef was very accommodating in making Maya a vegetarian meal. And that's it for day 11. This one was a bit tricky. I had 5 hours of footage, so I've done my best to get it down to a manageable watch. Enjoy.
You never see it coming. You see you never see it coming. You see that my mind is the best for eyes. You're coming, but the time it hits you, you're not surprised. I'm coming for you. My game's always so fast, so fine. You're smiling, but the net you didn't catch it in time.